Happy Wednesday. Here we go. It's going to be a grand Tulip People collaboration. Glad you're here. Got my coffee. I'm not over caffeinated today, so who knows? This may go a little slower. Probably not. I still get excited when I'm surrounded by beautiful flowers, and I still have some coffee ready. I hope you have your beverage of choice. If you're at work like me, I hope it's coffee or tea or soda. If you're sitting at home having dinner, maybe it's a glass of wine. Maybe it's late at night. Maybe warm milk. Who knows? Who knows what time it is, wherever you are. Let's do housekeeping. If you're on your phone, turn it sideways. That'll make the picture. My lights. Whoa! I'm going to blind everybody. There we go. Oh, you turn it sideways without blinding the world. Oh my gosh, how fun is that? You know what's really funny is I knew how to turn it off because I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I thought I was going to have to hand it offset to somebody to fix it. But turn it sideways, you have a bigger picture. If the comments are in the way, swipe, and you'll put it in the silent mode so you don't see the comments, and you can just swipe it back when you want them. If you're on your computer, go full screen. If you're watching me on your TV, I'm already larger than life. We've got a not full house today. There's no class on the other side of the wall. We're in between sessions. We are totally set for a class tomorrow, Wedding Trends and Techniques. It's going to be fabulous, updated and ready to roll. In the studio with me, I have teacher Marisa. She'll be following along on Facebook and sharing your questions and your thoughts. And then Creative Parker is here, and he'll be on YouTube following along, sharing your thoughts, and also keeping us technology set and live, just the way we need it. Virtually, we've got Caledonia. She's on Facebook. Susie on YouTube. David is out there. And we have you. So take a moment, introduce yourself, get ready for a fun time. If you're a tulip, put your tulip on there. If you are new, first timer, let us know. Introduce yourself. Say, hey, I'm a first timer and I'm from wherever. And lastly, before I get started with all these fabulous flowers, shout out to our tulips who are down in the south because we have tornadoes and storms going through the states in the southern part. And I know Carl had to take shelter.
He's here, actually.
Is he? Oh, Carl, I'm glad you're here. I hope you're okay. The storms look pretty dreadful. I looked up on the internet to see where it was going, and it's kind of scary. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're safe. And I hope everyone in your community is also safe. Although it did look like there's a lot of damage around in the southern United States. So if all of you tulips will just say a little blessing, wishing them all safety, and think about it. If you pray, pray. If you meditate, meditate. If you visualize, if you just send good wishes, please do, because it's a tough time. A lot of different things that we need to be thinking about and visualizing and thinking for the whole world. But let's move on with flowers. We're talking... Oh dear. Well, the duck is back. I guess teacher Marisa was getting ready for me, so we'll just set him right there for a minute. Oh my gosh, lost my chain there. I set up an assortment of flowers similar that you would encounter if you went to the PFDE, the Professional Floral Design Evaluation Testing for AIFD. It won't be this exact thing. It won't even necessarily be this color. But this would be indicative of what to expect, in that there's a large variety of material. There's also a large variety of different types of foliages, and then several different containers to choose from. When you go in for testing, there is far more than you can possibly use. So you never have to worry about, am I going to have enough? There's an abundance at your fingertips. So you get to make choices. And if you were with us a couple of weeks ago when I talked about that, I said, make sure if you don't like something, set it aside. Don't use it unless they tell you to use it. But we'll come back to that. But if you love pin cushions, make sure you've got them right out there where you won't forget them. Same with the mini cymbidium. But take a look. If there's something you really hate, or if you look at it and you think, gosh, that's really bad quality. That is almost dead already and it's wimpy. Don't use it. Set it aside. Don't compromise your designs by using anything bad. Be aware that sometimes you'll get something and it's not perfect, and you have to sort of take a look at it. Like, this has 2 broken carnations. One of them is actually brown. Don't use it. Get rid of it. Look at the things and sort them to make sure that they're ready. So when you're getting ready for the testing, part of it is just preparation. Now, if you've already put in your registration, I think their deadline is April 15th, so you've got a little bit of time. You are aware that there are rules that you have to follow and things that you can bring in. So I wanted to kind of review that while we get started, and then I'll start designing. You get to have 5 tools. That's it, nothing more. So you can have a pruner, you can have a knife, you can have a jewelry plier, you can have a wire cutter, and you can have a ribbon shear. Okay? That's all the tools that you can have, those 5 pieces. Then you're allowed a towel, a small hand towel. You can't take a bath towel, but you are allowed to bring in a towel, and you're allowed to bring in a snack in a plastic baggie. Now, why you can't just take your snack, I don't know. I didn't write the rules, but your snack has to be in a plastic baggie. It has to be see-through so that they can see your snack. So you've got a snack and 5 tools. Now, if you don't want these tools, maybe you love to use a bunch cutter. And if that's the case, then make a decision of which one you're going to give up. Are you going to say, okay, well then I don't have a pruner? And you can call this your pruner then. But now you don't have a strong pruner. Maybe you really love this shear. Then maybe you could give up your wire cutter. But again, you still have 5 tools, and that's all you can have. And they have to make sense. So you could say, well, this is my wire cutter. This is what I use for a pruner, my knife, my jewelry, and my ribbon. But you can pick which 5. I'm going to put mine back the way I had it set originally, because these would be the 5 that I would be comfortable with. My kind bar and my towel. And that's all I get to take in. That's it. Everything else has to be put aside. There's my collection. I can't even take my coffee. So I'll leave that on this side because it doesn't count, because I have to have my coffee. These are the things I can have, and then I can start designing. First thing when you go in, take a look at what you got and decide what you're going to use. I might decide that I'm going to make an arrangement. That's going to be one of my first things. And I think about, okay, what do I want to use? How do I want to do this? And I look at what materials I have. And maybe it's really important to me to use the heliconia. Or maybe I'd rather something a little more delicate with the parakeets. I think I'm going to start with the heliconia just because I like those. They've got a little bit of damage on their tip, so I'm going to clean those up a little bit. And now I have to choose, because I can use my ribbon scissor, which if I do that, Teacher Marisa and Teacher Michelle are going to be really mad at me. I can use my pruner, which isn't really appropriate for that. So now you have to think, what do I wish I had? And you're stuck. So that's where you want to kind of think about, what tools are you going to use? Now, since this is the most important day of my life and I'm testing, I'm going to use my ribbon scissor and make everybody mad, but that's the best tool for cleaning this bloom up so that I can use it in my design and not get counted down for poor quality. So these are choices you're going to have to make on the day. This one's a little bit better condition, so not so bad. So I think I've got 2 now that I can use. Then I want to think about which angles I'm going to use them. Ooh, that side's not very pretty, is it? So then I think, ooh, do I even want to use it? I don't think so. I think I'm not gonna use that. So then I might go back and look at my parakeets again and think, well, these two aren't too bad. And they could work with this one and end up looking okay. So these are the thought process. Okay? Then you think about the containers that they've given you. You've got lots of choices to think about. And I'm going to do this one just for sake of demonstration, okay? What kind of mechanics? It'll be interesting to see because they might give you floral netting. They might not. They might give you foam. It might be black, midnight foam, or it might be green. They might not give you foam. Hard to know. The main thing that I would be aware of is if you do use foam, it doesn't mean you have to fill the whole container. You can make choices as to how you want to place this into the container and not have necessarily tons and tons and tons of foam to try to conceal. And a trick you might want to think about is do a little bit of pre-greening to protect yourself from the dreaded evaluation of any mechanics showing. Now, for those of you that are coming to class in May, we have the full hands-on intensive. It's 16 hours dedicated to preparing for the test. And we have so many more tricks that we're going to be sharing with you. But this is a basic trick that we teach in many of our classes. It's not really anything unique, so I'm not stealing the thunder from the class. But one of the things you can do is take and just wrap your foam with a leaf ahead of time to help conceal it. Pierce it in there, wrap around, and then come back around. Then you won't potentially have anchor pins, so you have to figure out how do you conceal this without an anchor pin. So maybe you use another leaf and just pierce through. Cut with my knife first, pierce through, and that will hold it in place, similar to a hairpin or a greening pin. I said anchor pin, didn't I? I meant greening pin or hairpin. But that way my mechanics are mostly hidden before I even begin. So then I set that in.
Leanne, may I ask you a question real quick?
You may.
So you have that piece of stem hanging out. When you wrapped it around the foam, would you put that towards the inside so you don't see it?
You could put it to the inside or conceal it by draping something over it.
Okay.
But you do have to hide it. So if I go that direction, the stem's less visible, but now I have this. So I might want to do one more leaf around there to make sure that that's concealed. And those are all choices that you need to make as you're working to see whether or not it's really going to work for you. So like if I come back here, look what happens. If I take it back out and I take that stem out and use my leaf and then wrap around. Okay. Now this time, if I take this and tuck it under, I can add that pinned in a little more invisibly, and then again set it down in place. And I'm setting it so that it's off center. It's not centered in the dish, which will allow me to design in a little more stylized fashion. But I have to anchor that in place. So thank goodness, along with my ducks, they gave me some tape. Now they may not give you tape. So if they don't give you tape, you have to figure out a way to anchor this in so that for sure it's not going to shift. If they do give you tape, I like to go ahead and do across the top to make sure that they don't let go. Now, one year when I was participating in the evaluation, I wasn't the tester, but I was working with the team. One year when the testing was set up, they took, because they're not going to give you a roll of tape. The budget isn't there to give every single person a roll of tape. So that year they took the tape and they hooked it to your table and cut it and then just hooked it to your table leg. So you had access to tape, but you didn't have a roll of tape. So then if you spilled your water on that, your tape is ruined. So just point to think about, worry about actually, because you just don't know. So I can go and secure that. But then the next thing I would do before I do anything else is finish concealing all my mechanics. And by that, right back here is the stem that I used, and here is tape. I want to make sure both of those things are totally concealed, and then I need to make sure this area is totally concealed. Now, with this set, they were kind enough to give me one of my favorite things in the world, the Fatsia leaf. But notice how dirty they are. Okay. That could count down for me. So that is where having your towel to wipe those off takes a little bit of time, but that's in your favor to make sure that those are not filthy dirty. Getting it ready before you use them. Those are little things that will make all the difference in the world as far as if they deem you're working on a professional level, above and beyond what is expected, or if you're just designing at maybe a commercial level, but not what is deemed as being an advanced professional level. Okay? Those of you that have had floral design, basic and advanced, you can know what I'm doing. Will somebody answer that question? What did I just do here? And those of you that have taken class, you know, because we've done it. And in fact, it probably was on one of your tests as a question. Imagine that.
It's in both basic and advanced, Leanne.
That is true. It's in basic and advanced. So now, I've made a point of... Oh, we have the answer already? What's our answer?
Okay, so over here on Facebook, Jackie, I'll give it to Jackie and Sherry, because Sherry was right behind them. Terracing.
Jake had it over here.
Okay. Jake just graduated, I think, basic and is in advanced now. Is that right? I believe he is. And I think he is planning to test. Jake, if you do decide to test, I'd encourage you to do the Designing for Comp class. It's amazing how much difference that makes. When we have had students take the class and then they go test, they do well. And I know many of you are tulips and will be in Las Vegas to be inducted. That's exciting. So let's do a count here. I would like to know, and Marisa, remind me that I asked this question because I have something I want to share with everyone. But first, we need to know who's being inducted. Give a shout out to yourself. Who is being inducted this year in Las Vegas? That's really exciting. You're going to be walking across that stage, larger in life on the big screen, getting a lay, me out in the crowd going, yay! It's going to be so exciting. So who's getting inducted? Okay, number one. Then number two, who has already dedicated themselves to testing? Who is a registered candidate? So I want to know who is inducted, who is testing, And last, yes, there's 3 here. Last, who's going to be in Vegas with us? Which tulips are in Vegas? We'll come back to that. We probably won't list all the names right now because we'll be collecting those throughout the entire day. But I will still tell you what I have to share about the goings on in Las Vegas because it's pretty much fun. But let's see who's inducted, who's testing, and who is attending. 3 things, okay? Back to designing. So I have my foam secured off center so that I don't have to cover so much as I'm working. Because the more insertions you have to make, the more time it's going to take. So this holds that in. Then I covered my mechanics, making sure that there's no tape to be seen. Please, mechanics should be a 5. It's basic floral design. That's it. So all of you have completed the basic course. You'll get a 5 on mechanics if you just do what you know. True. And you want a 5. You need a 5 because some things you might not get a 5. Some things you might even get a 3 because it wasn't perfect. But if you have a 5, it offsets that 3. And so that's okay. So make sure you get a 5 on mechanics. So plan carefully. Then go back and we're going to place in the flower. And I'm going to have to face this to me for a moment just because if I don't, I'm not positive I'll get things in right. Now, think about working with your large stems, gladiolas. You did that arrowhead. And then I don't want anything perfectly straight. So I'm coming in at a slant. And then I'm repeating that. The opposite side. Okay, I'm doing another technique here that you learned. And I'll flip it around and we'll see who gets it first. Actually, it could have a couple of answers, but we'll... Okay. I'm looking for the one answer. What did I just do here? What did I do with my parakeets? I did something, a technique you know, and then we'll have another question, but let's go for that one first.
And that one is also in basic and advanced in the final exam.
Okay, basic and advanced. See, we teach you everything you need to be successful.
Wow, Cherie's on it.
Okay, Cherie.
Did you get anyone yet, Parker?
Now I have 1.
Okay, so ready? What did you get? You go first.
No.
Okay, Cherie said shadowing.
Shadowing is correct.
Oh, that's what Jake had too.
JCAT shadowing, good.
Now we
So your
go.
terminology, good job, peoples. This is exciting. So, an example, basic and advanced, you know it. Am I too tall, Parker?
Just a tiny bit. I'm just going to tilt that.
You want me to drop it down a little bit?
If you feel like you can, sure.
I can make it a little bit shorter and still be in scale, I think.
Yeah.
That work better?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Would you like to elaborate, because I had a couple people give us this answer for the terraced leaves and what you just did with the shadowing. Why are those 2 techniques not mirroring?
Mirroring and shadowing, that's a huge discussion that we have many times because they're basically the same. Technically, shadowing, you place the one behind, and mirroring, you place the one in front. So really, is it the same? So we pretty much just started calling them all shadowing. Terracing is always as though you're stair-stepping in a garden, and so it's on a horizontal, whereas this is on a vertical. That makes sense? So shadowing is always vertical, terracing is always horizontal, and the 2 shall not meet. Okay, there we go. Then I created a line, and in the advanced class, you do the advanced study of line. Let's see if you can figure out what type of line I created as I put this together. So up to you to come up with the type of line.
Can I shout some folks out?
Yeah.
Well, I have Lysia, Sonette, Rose, Jake, Sue, Janet, Christy, Heidi, Morag, Roxy, Vicky, Tess, Angela, Debbie, Wanda, Valerie, Elaine, Rosie, Tess, Teresa, Olga, and Adriana, and I have 4 new people today. I have Kristen, I have Angelina, I have someone named Commonsensical, and I have Beryl, whose friend Mia brought them in, and they're trying to start up a flower farm soon.
Oh, grand. Well, welcome to all the first timers. That's so exciting. And I recognized many international names of people that I know, which means the time change snafu has finally sort of come together so that we're doing a little bit better there. Good. So now I'm going to go in, and when I work, and this is a personal choice, and this one's falling apart, I think, so I'm not going to use it. No. This is a personal choice, but when I work, I always start with my mechanics, and then I add my lines, and that way that creates my form. And then I go to the emphasis, so that for sure I make that most important visual element strong. And I find if I do the emphasis early on, everything just works better. So it was mechanics, line, form, and then emphasis. So did anybody get that last question? Of
Okay.
the type of line?
So, sort of. Again, to Cherie, and also Lori was actually first. So this is correct, but for me, I think that you're looking for something else. They did say inward line. However, I think that you're wanting to push that even further.
That is exactly true. It is inward line movement. Good job, because you can have outward or inward. And there it goes. When I use that inward line movement, it created another line. Let's see if you can come up with that term. So I used inward line movement to create, and now we'll see for that one. Now I'm adding roses, which I am basing across to add depth, front to back. And I'm going to turn this so that I can see what I'm doing on this side, and then I'll bring it back to you.
Leanne, can I do some shout outs over here on Facebook?
Please do.
Okay, quite a few tulips out there. We have John, Lisa, Natalie, Cherie, Kim, Denise, Drake, who is registered for testing. We have Wayne, Deb, Robin, Carl, Lori, Kim, Ann, Jim, Evangeline, Jackie, who's enjoying us for Jackie, who's enjoying her first week in the online course. Sweet Briar's with us, Mary, Chris, Kathy, who's in the middle of the advanced online. Also 2 Loris. And then I would like to do a shout out to Bethany and tell her, yes, I was distracted by the prettiness of her submission, and I apologize, I didn't see her extra notes.
Distracted by the prettiness. That's good. Now, oops, I think we have a visitor. That's what happens when we're running shorter time.
Mr. Ross.
Drake got the question, by the way.
Drake got it? Okay.
Psychic.
So the line I was looking for was implied line. And then maybe that's what Drake brought up, because it's an implied line right here. That's your implied line. Okay. So I have 2 upright diagonal, 1 horizontal. Then one thing I wanted to share with you is that when you test, you're going to have an abundance of foliage. I showed you and started using the Fatsia, but you may have multiple things. Like you might have ribbon grass, you might have flax, you might have tea, you might have palm, might have leather, salal, huckleberry. You don't know, but there will be multiple types of foliage. That I can guarantee. There's no doubt. And so then, using the skills that you learned in school, you might weave your foliage, and then insert that, adding that as a creative touch. That's going to score well. You might manipulate your foliage. You might knot it. You might bind it. You could have equisetum, and you can mold and do something with that. So using the techniques that you used in advanced floral design with your foliage manipulation, it's a wonderful way to enhance your designs with creative flair, which then will increase your testing capabilities. Now, I'm not going to take class time right now for that because I've got so many things I want to share with you. And those of you that have had advanced studies, you can go back and research that, look at those, practice them, get your speed up. If you've not had advanced, maybe you should. That way you can get that ready. And then those of you coming to Designing for Competition and Evaluation in May, we will definitely be expanding upon all of the foliage techniques because that's something you can easily do to make your arrangements go from pretty to spectacular. So I'm going to stop on this one and move to another, and then I'm going to ask Parker and Marisa tomorrow to photo it as is and then to enhance it so that we can put the two side by side. You saw us do that before, and that way we can talk about it and you too can help us in the evaluation. But so we're going to do it with line and emphasis in here and my mechanics covered, but there's no pizzazz. Then we'll add pizzazz and you can see the difference. But I'm going to go ahead with another arrangement. If you know somebody thinking about testing, would you share this out with them? Please, please, please share it out because, oh, what do I want to use? I don't know. Maybe I'll use this one. Share it out and let them know that there's a lot of information here that can help them get ready. Now, I talked about the 5 tools, okay? Then the other thing you want to think about is the testing. And Caledonia and Susie, if you could put the link in there, because I know this isn't going to show on camera, but this is the testing criteria, and you'll be evaluated on it. And I'm going to put my glasses on. They're going to evaluate you on the creativity, that's where the flair is important, the scale, that's where learning all your Fibonacci, that's going to save you there. Then unity, balance, emphasis, line, depth, color, coming back to that, mechanics, you better be a 5, there's no reason, and category interpretation, that should be a 5. Those 2 should be perfect. And then everything else, you do your best, and you'll probably get a 3 here and there, and hopefully get lots of 4s, and then get some 5s. Because we're not all perfect every time, we know that, but you can be close. Now, color is one that gets people kind of irritated, agitated, wrinkled. When I was working with the evaluation team, I got more phone calls from candidates complaining to me about their score on color. Because they're like, I know my color, and you gave me these things, so how could I be wrong? And you are very correct. Everything here matches the analogous color palette. So if I look at it just for analogous, you get a 5. You're great. But as we all know as advanced designers, how you use your color matters. It's not just the color palette. It's how you use that color. And if you use the wrong amounts of things and mix and match to where it's too spotty or too much of one color or not enough, you're going to be counted down. So not only study the color wheel, study color as a whole. Now, it's going to be interesting this year. We don't know what you're going to get, but it is possible that you would get floral netting. So if you have not worked with floral netting yet, please do. Experience what that does. Practice with it. See how it makes you feel. See if it works or not. When you work with it, it's a matter of definitely getting more than one layer, because if it's all one layer, it's not going to do you any good. and then getting it down into the container and making sure that it's going to be totally concealed. And I've got more here than I need, so I'm going to go back and cut some of this off. I hadn't decided which container I was going to use, so I didn't cut this to fit. I just cut a big piece off. So now I've got to go back and cut some out because it's going to be too bulky in there. And of course, I'm going to save the rest because who knows, I might need it for another design. And that's something when you are testing, make sure you save anything you don't use in case you need it later. That way you don't have to panic. You can always come back and say, oh, I had that little snippet left. I'll go grab that and use it, and you're fine. Okay? Now when we do the designing for competition and evaluation, we actually put together an entire mock test so that you have to do a practice PFDE in the comfort of our classroom, so you don't have to worry about an evaluator right there coming and giving you fail or pass. You know your teachers are with you to guide you and help you. So you do your PFDE test, and then we evaluate it, and then we show you how to do your corrections and how to take it to the next level, what steps you need to do so that you can practice that. It makes it so that you can get better because you had a little bit of input from a teacher that guides you. Okay? For those of you studying at home, go back to your elements and principles. Basic and advanced floral design. The elements and principles is really all you have to know. I know that's oversimplified because the elements and principles are a big deal. But if you know the elements and principles, you're good to go. What's that?
Do you have a liner in there?
No, but it looked like this one
I
was
know.
a solid one.
We
No.
thought so too, and then it does leak. I'm so sorry.
So you know what? It's gonna be leaking.
Okay.
We'll find out. And that's something you gotta worry about there too. Because it might leak. And then you're messed up. Oh, yeah. So then that means this might not be the best container. This one might have been a better container because I don't have to worry about it leaking. You know what? We're early enough on. Let's switch it. Ha! Look at that. Problem solved. Thanks, Marisa.
You're welcome.
So I have one more question for you. Got water still in here. I got to dump it out in case it leaks. There we go. One more question for you. No, I can't remember it. No. Today, because I knew that this live was a super important one for many people, taking the PFDE test is a life-altering event. I'll be honest, it's the hardest test I've ever taken in my life, and it scared me to death. And I sweated about it for a year. And I didn't take that test till I had been a florist for probably 25 years because I was afraid. I was so afraid. Now I know you don't have to be afraid, you just have to be prepared. There's no tricks. They're not trying to make you fail, they're trying to let you succeed. And as long as you know your elements and principles and you know your mechanics, you will succeed. But I was thinking about the fact that this is a chance that people that maybe don't necessarily have the ability to join us for flower school on a regular basis, that they should still know some of the things about the testing to help them lead potentially the way to greater success. So I posted this earlier today on a whole bunch of different flower groups on Facebook, which I normally don't do that because I figure I put it on our page and you guys might share it, but I don't. I'll share it out on Sunday when it's over. But anyway, I shared it out to a bunch of groups. I'm wondering, did you come to us because of seeing this on a group? I'm just curious. Did I waste my time, or was that a step that was good? If you found and heard about this from a group on Facebook, especially if you're a first timer, let me know what group, because then I'll make sure, and when we have tips to share with you, I'll make sure and post it on your group so that I don't leave you out. Because I put it in different groups than I really stock. It was kind of like, this group might have these people. So if you could tell me, if you saw it on a group and you're here with us now, what group was it? Help me know how best to get you future information to help you with testing and such. Look at these kangaroo paws. Aren't they fabulous? I just fell in love with them. I got them because I liked the color. Now, if you don't like kangaroo paws, this would be an item that you shouldn't use. If you love kangaroo paws, oh my gosh, this is an item you're going to go bonkers over just like me because of the color. Now I'm setting it in. I'm using floral netting. Am I too tall? Am I okay? Should I go shorter?
No, totally fine.
Okay. Yes, Marisa.
Okay, so I was out of the room, I think, but I think there was something that you were doing where you had little snippets of something. So anyways, would you use those little snippets for part of your tablescape when you're done?
Creating a tablescape? No. There are no points for creating a tablescape. And if the item is not attached to the arrangement, they don't include it visually in their evaluation. And if it is attached, but you were just doing it to make it look kind of cool for the tablescape, it can actually count you down. So snippets and such, you could use them in a small arrangement, or if the flowers to wear, or for a bouquet or something. But if it's for the tablescape, no, don't do it. What else?
So Lynn, actually Jake did call a few days ago, and him and I had a conversation about testing. And there's something that I was not able to provide for him. So when they go into the room and they get all their flowers and they're told what they need to make, how long do they have to think about and conceptualize everything until they actually start designing?
You know, the timeline is posted right now on the AIFD PFDE instruction page. So you can look at that timeline. Now, the timing varies a bit. So they start at 10 in the morning, and that's when they let you register and get your packet. But at that point, you don't know what's going into your designs yet. It's just your packet with your badge, and they check your identification to know that you really are who you say you are, and they get you the legalities. Then, at about, and you'll have to look online to make sure, but in the early afternoon, they have a small reception, and in the past they have provided some beverages and some snacky foods to try to get a little sustenance in you before they take you into the room for testing, because you don't want to pass out from hunger just because you didn't have time to eat. And then at the end of that reception, they take you into a private room where you sit theater style in chairs, and that's where they're going to hand you a piece of paper that lists everything that you get to work with, and it lists the categories. So that's when you're going to find out. So that is going to be mid-afternoon. Then at 4 o'clock, it's either 3 or 4, and after that, so they're going to give you the piece of paper. They're going to tell you what you're making. There's usually a PowerPoint presentation. This year it'll be Damon up there saying, and this is what you need to do, and blah, 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 blah. And then there'll be a question and answer time. Once all the questions are answered, that's when they take you into the room and they give you a period of time before the test begins. If there are lots and lots of questions, you might only have 30 minutes. But you also have that question time to be sitting there thinking and sketching and making plans. If there aren't as many questions, you might have 45 minutes in there to touch your things. It can vary, But there is a little bit of time there, and it all depends on the questions and how many times people have to ask the same question. Can I use my knife? And you're like, yes, will you shut up? I want to go look at my flowers. But they need to get those questions answered, and it does take time, and it does give you a chance to hear other people's questions, which will help you know better what you need to be doing. So I find the question time to actually be a benefit, even though sometimes it'll make you crazy thinking, let's get started, because the questions are important. So now, I started with my line, just like I did before. Remember, I started with line. And this time I really focused on extending my line and creating unity. So I went light green to light green, and I went up, and then I repeated it going down so that I had that extra drama going on. Now I had no tape, so I didn't have to worry about hiding my mechanics. I do have to hide my wire when I'm done, but I didn't have anything on the vessel that I need to worry about. So now I've created my line. Now I have to think about additional lines and or my emphasis and my form, all of the others, the rest of the story. So then I look at what I have and I think, oh, what do I want to use? And maybe I want to bring in the cymbidium. Isn't that a beautiful one? Truly lovely. Where does it belong? Thinking about my spacing here, maybe putting it over here. There we go. Notice that I'm working with my binding point. Back to basic floral design. I have a binding point. If you don't use a binding point, you might get counted down. You've got to use it correctly. You can have multiple binding points, but it has to be intentional. Okay,
I have a quick flower question, William.
okay. We do good with flowers.
I thought so. Darnell wanted to know, is there a difference between a tulip and a French tulip?
There is. French tulips are generally bigger, longer, stronger. It is still in the tulip family. It is still a bulb, but it's a unique beast. A regular tulip might be 12 inches. A French tulip could be 36 inches.
Oh.
A tulip head might be 2 inches. A French tulip might be 5 inches. And then think about a parrot tulip with that roughly contorted and variegated petals. That's yet a third variety that's different. So yes, they are different. So I've got carnations, and I've got crispidia. This is a great way to cover my mechanics and to bring in that muted color, because I've got muted with my amaranthus and my kangaroo paws, and then I've got that bolder with the cymbidium. And so this brings a more muted yellow and starts to kind of coordinate it with the white of the container. Because this isn't white, but it's lighter so that it makes it sort of fit together. Basing with my carnations. If you haven't if you saw this in a group, do that. That's for me, just because I want to know how best to use my time to get information out to you, because that's something that I personally do, and it takes work. And you know me, I'd rather be playing with my flowers than working. And so if you let me know how to work smarter, I would appreciate that. Okay. Notice how I cut them all at once? Saves time. Another trick that you can use to make your testing go better. And then I'm bringing the darker so that it pulls your eye over. Okay. Now again, if you're thinking about testing, definitely go back, look at your basic and advanced. Definitely join us for the Designing for Competition. If you are already a florist, you've not taken basic or advanced, but you know your stuff, you might want to do both advanced and Designing for Competition just to get an update on techniques in the advanced course, because you can do that online. You don't have to come in person. The designing for competition is only in person. It's very limited in size because we want that one-on-one time with the teacher to work with you individually. And we just teach it the once a year because that's what works best for our people. Now I've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Crespedium. Actually, I think there's another one tucked down underneath. 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to use all 10 in this one arrangement, which means I don't have any to use anyplace else, because that's something else you need to know, that when they give you material, you're not going to get more than a bunch of anything. And sometimes you don't get a whole bunch. You might get half a bunch. So think wisely about how you want to use your materials. And I'm not able to get my mechanics totally covered, so I'm going to take these back out, add one more carnation, and then go back and put these over the top to finish hiding. Okay, so now this is at the same point as the other one, where I have my basic lines, I have emphasis, I have my mechanics covered, but I don't have anything with creative flair, and I've got a hole right here. Notice that hole? So I've got to figure out what could I put there, what would fix that. Now, it could be I go back and find my Crespedium that tucked way down low that isn't even being seen and grab it, okay? And then move it over into this spot, and that fills the hole. But it doesn't solve the creative flair. So again, we're going to set this one aside now. We'll photo it as is, and then we'll add the creative flair. We'll show them side by side, because this by itself would not pass the PFDE. It could be pretty, it could sell, but it doesn't have everything to match all the criteria that you need. So tomorrow when you see the picture, we'll be posting it all on the Tulip People's page first, on that Facebook page, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll share the rest of the pictures out all over social media so that you can see it. So again, let me know what group I need to be posting these on so that you get to see it, because I don't want to hide it from you. Because when you see the difference between adequate to spectacular, you'll be amazed. Marisa, what's up?
Yeah, so Kathy has a question about, so this arrangement that you just created, can you give us a couple examples of like what category would that fit in?
Good question. So the categories, let's talk categories real quick. There it is, 5 categories. There's wedding and flowers to wear. Now those are, neither one of them are wedding or flowers to wear. Okay, so we haven't done that. Then one is an arrangement. They both would qualify for an arrangement. Now it will depend on what they are specifying for the arrangement, because this one is sort of wide, so it might be too big for a hospital if they set an arrangement for a hospital. This one is a little more narrow. Find my front again. Oh, my cymbidium shifted on me. Let's get those back into position. There we go. So this one is narrow and straight, so that might be really good for a hospital. Now it could be an arrangement for an office. Then it could work either way. So those could be for the arrangement. If it's sympathy, that's another category. That's the 4th one, sympathy. If they set an arrangement to go to the family's home for sympathy, that would work. If they said they wanted a funeral wreath, it wouldn't work. An easel spray wouldn't work. So, and then the last one is designer's choice. It would certainly work for designer's choice, because that's whatever you want to do that shows your skills to the absolute best. So that kind of gives you your answer there. Okay. Now I've got just a tiny bit longer, and I would like to do something wedding-ish. And one thing that I find is when you're doing anything, make sure that your stems are cleaned and perfect, okay? And then as you're working, think about what works well together and what fights it. Now, a little bit of yellow could make this sing, okay? But look how messy this yellow is. So I've got to get in here and clean it all off. And go back up and clean a little more. Cleaning is really, really important. If you saw our Tulip Tuesday with trimming liatris, that was a technique that teacher Marisa shared with me that's a really quick way to clean up your liatris and get it ready for testing quality design. If you didn't see it, just go back to the YouTube playlist for Tulip Tuesdays, and trimming liatris will be in there, and you can search it or just kind of look through the playlist and you'll find it. But things like that make all the difference in the world, taking the time to clean it up, just like so. Okay. Now, while I'm getting this ready, again, please share this out with anybody who needs to know more about the testing process. If you are thinking about testing, join us for Advanced Flow Design Online. That covers a lot of the material that you need to know. And join us for Designing for Competition and Evaluation here in the classroom, because that's a class that we wrote specifically for this test and really does help. And then lastly, if you are being inducted, make sure you put it in there. I'm trying to make a list of everybody that's part of our people that's being inducted, so I make sure I scream really loudly and congratulate you. If you are testing, let us know, because again, I want to shout out and say congratulations to you for being brave, for stepping up and doing that, no matter the results. The fact is, you were brave and you did something to enhance your floral career. And then lastly, if you're going to be in Vegas, let us know, because I'm making a list for that. And that's the last announcement that I have. So Marisa, I remembered, so you don't even have to remind me now. Yes?
Okay, so I had someone ask a question and I answered, but yes, you have to do 5 designs in 4 hours. However, someone wants to, or Jim, excuse me, wants to know, is that 4 continuous nonstop hours or do we have breaks in between?
It is 4 continuous nonstop hours. And yes, you have to do 5 arrangements in 4 hours. And that's part of what we work on in the class, is how to pace yourself, how to make sure you can time it correctly, and how to be successful with that. They do allow you to go to the bathroom, but you have to raise your hand and get permission to go to the bathroom. And you have to go with a bathroom attendant. I was actually the bathroom monitor one year. That was really quite the joy. But yeah, so it is 4 continuous hours. So on this one, I'm going to do a wedding bouquet, but I'm not going to do traditional, because if I do traditional, it probably will not score well. And it could be that I do a simple manipulation technique of just rolling my leaf a bit and using some U-glue, which you might or you might not get, okay? And then manipulating it, and repeating that, because repetition enhances your rhythm. Think about your classes, and rhythm is important in your design. So all of these things. Back to my announcement, and then I'm going to do a little bit more of this design, and then we're going to sign off, and we'll get it finished and show you in the pictures tomorrow. Okay. So I've got 2 leaves, both contorted. I'm going to soften this one down a little more. I want it to scooch over. There we go. And then this one. Okay. Then I could bring in one heliconia.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned that you used all of the Crispidia in one design. Would you otherwise get points for unifying across your designs, or are they all individually scored?
They are individually scored, but it is nice to have some unity across your designs. So that could be a negative. Could being the key word. There are not points for that. But, and that's something we'll go over in class a lot with people, how to do the subtle little things that can make a difference, because it's surprising sometimes what you can do to up your score just by subconscious things. But that's time for another story. That's what we'll be doing in designing for competition evaluation. So you can see I've got this together. Then I'm going to finish this one off camera, and we'll have it just finished. We won't do a before and after on this one because I didn't get enough of the before done. But the announcement I have to share with you, the most important thing in the world is once we have a list of all the tulips that are going to be in Las Vegas, David and I will be hosting a private reception for you as our guests. That's one of our traditions, is we have a champagne reception for the tulips so that you can all gather and meet each other. We have a meetup for the tulips, and we'll be doing this in Vegas. I don't have an exact date and time. I think I know exactly what it's going to be, but it's too soon to share that with you because things can always sort of evolve. We have to work around everybody's schedule. But make sure that let us know if you're going to be in Vegas, if you're going to be inducted, if you're going to be testing, because we want to include you on our list and invite you to the tulip reception. It's a special time where I get to meet you in real life instead of just on the camera live. Now again, if you enjoyed this, like it, share it, give it a thumbs up, spread the word, and we'll see you next week as we have more fun with the Tulip People collaboration. Now get out there and do something you love.